That's all right. Everybody's joining us. Thank you for joining us tonight. We've got Katie and Carol, and we've got Michael, Luann, Diane, Pam. I always see Rocky, Dawn. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We have a great panel. I love this topic. So it's building up boomers, a balancing act. We've got Pat with us. We've got Ellie, Robert, and Rosie. We're thrilled to have them there with us. Do me a favor, if you would, please move your mouse, go to the bottom of your screen. You're going to see the green share button. Go to the left, that's the chat box. I love this. People start typing it in already. Rocky's from California. Luann's from Iowa. Please type in where you're from. The great thing about going to these webinars live is that you guys can ask questions. Please ask questions. We love going on tangents. We have 45 minutes. This is your webinar, and we're just gonna, Sacramento, California, baby. Love that, Robert. Thank you so much. I hate you. I'm from Chicago. Except it was beautiful today. It was beautiful today, and I heard from my good friend Ann Gilbert that it was raining in Tampa, and I was a little bit happy. Okay, so there are 76 million aging baby boomers in America, and they are projected to drive the fitness industry for the next 20 years. Join our panel of experts to learn how to develop and effectively deliver balance training, fall risk prevention, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to give you brief introductions. Pat VanGalen. Is it Galen or Gallon?
Galen.
And she's in gorgeous Montana. She had a beautiful view behind her, but the lighting wasn't working. But we're really excited to have her on because she's been teaching, coaching, lecturing, writing, doing workshops for a very long time before there even were certifications dealing with exercise and aging. And she's joining us with 40 years plus of experience. We have Robert Linkle, who is barely 40, just kidding. Okay, and he has a wonderful organization called trainingtheolderadult.com. Fabulous. He's been presenting for us throughout COVID as well as in 2019. He has a personal training studio that is in Shingle Springs, California, but he brings us online training, online certifications to people all across the world. And welcome, Robert. We have a new presenter who actually came through a good friend of ours, Billy Wartenberg, and Rosie Maligan, just like Callahan, but with an M, was one of our kind of surprise presenters from Livestream Mania. And oh my gosh, everybody just adored her. And she's one of the favorite instructors at Trilogy, which is an over 55 age community. It's a wonderful community in Florida. I think it was sunny there today, but that's okay. She's got 15 years of teaching and training and everything from yoga, and she's certified in just about every organization. So welcome, Rosie. And then we have Elly Frymire Cone, who is fabulous and developed a really cool piece of equipment that she actually sent to me that I fell in love with. I'm a big tubing fan. I think a lot of you know that I love to do strength training. I love the versatility of tubing, but I'm 62 years old. I have to train my balance. I've got bad feet and a kind of a bad attitude. And so I tried the ArcaRays. And so I called up Ellie, and she's amazing. She holds multiple fitness certifications from just about everybody. I could list them: ACE, NASM, Arthritis Foundation, everywhere. And which is, my watch is talking to me. How crazy is that? So she's the founder and creator and CEO of ArcaRays, and she develops safe products to enhance core balance and fall risk reduction, creating solutions for active aging. So I'm just going to launch right in. The first question that we put on this webinar was, what certifications are recommended? Now, I know that I was going to start with you, Robert. I'm switching gears. I'm going to start with Pat, because before we turn the camera on, Pat shared with us that when she started training older adults, there were no certifications. So how did you begin, Pat?
Well, I started back as a physical education major. So that's where all my science came from. Teacher, coach, then I went into master's exercise science. And then from there, I just kept building. And that's when the organization started coming around. And ever since then, whatever is available, I'm like a sponge. I'm trying to learn constantly. So I think, Sarah, you've done a wonderful job with the SCW. There's multiple organizations out there. You don't want me to mention any, right?
It's fine.
So my point is that there is no one certification to teach you how to coach and train older adults. You have to just keep layering your continued education. And you get people, you know, every 55-year-old is not the same, that's for sure. So you have to find out where they are and get them where they want to go. And whatever that means is you have to have a lot of tools in your toolbox.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to be able to customize, personalize, and progress. That's what it's about. What makes them tick? That is the most important thing.
And I also feel that the research keeps coming out.
Oh, it
keeps coming out.
Yeah.
And Robert, you're nodding, and I know you've got training the older adult, your certification program. Why did you? And again, this isn't a sales pitch for any of these things. It's just, why did we decide to develop these things and go down this path of educating more people and maybe integrating more science in?
Yeah, well, we see with the accredited certifications out there, it really prepares you to work with general populations. And then we start to have our tiers of areas of expertise that we want to learn more about. And I felt like there was a pretty big gap, and there still is a very large gap, a large space for us to provide more education for other trainers to learn working with this population, from limitations and injuries that occur to the goals and training outcomes that they want to pursue, to dealing with the aging body through disease and joint replacements and everything else that we have to go through. So there's a lot to learn. The heart of all of that, I feel like, is resistance training. Whatever goal these individuals are pursuing, if it's fat loss, if it's performance for golf or tennis, if it's to overcome a disease, if we assist them and get them stronger, they're much more likely to achieve those goals and pursue those goals quicker. So it's basically foundations. We got to build a great foundation of strength. And with a lot of entry-level trainers or just first-time trainers, they don't know what to do with older populations. They hear about arthritis or cancer or joint replacement, and they're freaked out. And they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm not gonna do anything. I don't want to hurt them. And so you end up avoiding all these areas instead of training with the limitation and learning how to do it. So that's what I wanted to come through and teach. How do you do that? How do you work with someone who's had a hip replacement or that's going through cancer treatments, and just try to provide direction. And there's great research, not to go on forever about this, but there's great research to support this. Multiple different organizations out there that just supports that 20 to 30 minutes resistance training twice a week, 20 to 30 minutes of higher level intensities in cardio or fast walking twice a week. I mean, just little bouts, small things that we can do that make big differences in the end. There's very good research to support that throughout all the aging process. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but we definitely need more, as we talked about beforehand.
Yeah, and I think, as I mentioned, we think, well, to make things more intense, we've got to do it higher, harder, and faster. So how do you deal with an older adult? You make it lower, slower, and weaker. And that's not necessarily the answer. And so we look at this and, what are the smart decisions? Ellie, I think you were mentioning the Arthritis Foundation. You found that to be very valuable.
It was an excellent organization. When I got into wanting to work with older adults, 25% of the population has arthritis. So that's a great place to start. You're going to come across that at some point. So I started looking into the Arthritis Foundation, and they actually have a certification program. I don't think you get credits through the CECs, but I didn't reach for it for that reason. I wanted to know how to work with an arthritis-ridden person, and it's excellent resource. They put together a real recipe on how to follow. This is your first day. This is how you're going to introduce yourself. This is probably what you're going to come across. So as someone who had not worked with an arthritis-ridden person, it gave me such confidence knowing what I would come across, and they were spot on. And it's, not for profit, it's the Arthritis Foundation. They're supporting their people, their members. So that was a great organization to get started with. Really good. It's a gentle introduction.
I teach a lot of obviously water exercise, and I've started doing yoga. I do yoga at the Y. I teach a class, and because of the timing of the class, it's at 9:45 in the morning. They're all older adults, and so I kind of just ask them, what do you like? What do you like? And interestingly enough, I wasn't doing as much rotation because I just thought in the back of my head, well, I've got to be careful. And the first thing they asked for is, we need more rotation. I'm like, gotcha. Gotcha, go in there. And Rosie, you're smiling because you work with this population day in and day out. And, how did you learn how to train and work with them?
Well, I think, we're talking a lot about the physical part of the population, but emotionally also, what's going on in their head when they attend class, there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of frustration with their own body. And there's fear of falling and there's fear of getting hurt. And of course, you're going to have a percentage that are just diehards, lifelong exercisers. And that's what's really neat now is that we're with a generation that there is a pocket of people that have been exercising since the 60s and 70s. And so they're great and inspirational in your class, albeit maybe having some physical challenges now. But I find every day that not only is it my background in the physical training, but being able to actively listen and be kind and empathetic to what's going on in their heart that day really helps them just feel more comfortable in the class environment, because they're some of them are very nervous to even be present there without the whole pandemic and isolation behind them.
And Robert, how do you see the integration of the mental and the physical in the type of programming you're offering?
Well, Rosie, I think you nailed it right there, where you're talking about their frustrations with their body, and you can see it from simple things, trying to get up and down off the floor, and their hands hurt, their arthritis in their hands and their shoulders with their AC separation and whatever else. You can really see what a struggle that is, and where we need to be a bright spot and an energy setter for them. But to hear, I love the empathetic mindset, to hear what they're struggling with, what they're going through, let them express that out, and then do what we can do to assist with that. There's from using rubber bands around your fingers to help with the extensors and build strength and increase oxygenation, blood flow through the hands to help warn off neuropathies and arthritic and carpal tunnel collapses, and like all these little things that we can kind of bring to our clients and try to help them make little gains that will improve their quality of life. We have years of commitment, hopefully, from our clients coming in, that we can make that mental and physical connection with them and let them see we're here to work with them, and more than just collecting funds. We're truly trying to make a change in that. And that's, one of our mottos, movement is life. Like, we want to improve their quality of life, keep them independent, keep them sharp mentally. Like, there's the mental and the physical go hand in hand, to answer the question. It's definitely just a huge priority that we have to place with our training.
And Pat, I see you nodding. So I'm, obviously you agree. What have you seen, or what do you see when you're talking about the mental and the physical and just the psychological integration of the two, and how do we make the aging process, let's say, more comfortable, less frightening, and maybe enjoyable?
Well, I think we can't focus on all the problems they deal with, all the obstacles. Okay, what do you want to be able to do? This is my thing. What makes you tick? What do you want to be able to do? I want to be able to go to my granddaughter's wedding and dance the cha-cha. Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to train you to do that. So yes, they have things. They all have things, but you work through those things with a bucket list, a dream list. That's the first thing I do. Tell me what you love to do. What gets you ticking? We're going to get you there. But you focus on, train wreck coming, blood pressure, knees. It's here's the glass, it's half full, and we're going to fill it up. That's what we do. We get them through these things. And so I think a lot of times people like all of you we have to change the perception of aging. That's the key. It's the mindset. That's what it is. And I grew up in a house that was not a thing. Aging. What is that? You just keep going till you can't. So there was no, oh, you're too old to do that. Never heard that in my life until, well, I can't. Oh yeah, you can. So that's what we do. We get them there.
And I really like that because, with, I'm going to say regular clients, when they walk in your door, what are your goals? Oh, I want to lose 5 pounds. Oh, I want to blah, blah, blah. You hear these things, but shifting it a little bit, because I got to be honest with you, since I was 20 years old, I've wanted to lose the same 4 pounds. It's just 4 pounds. And it's just, you're up and down, right between there. And maybe for 5 minutes out of the month, you're at your goal weight. And
you don't want to spend 50 years worried about your damn 4 pounds. There's life out there. That's setting it so that we're setting a goal that has to do with an activity, I think really is inspirational. I love your analysis of taking it as the glass is half full. What type of intake assessments are we doing? Like Rosie, I asked you before we turned the camera on about what type of intake assessments you do. And I thought it was real interesting what Trilogy does.
The first thing that we do, we have a new member orientation so they can feel a little bit more comfortable with the trainers, with the environment. We're lucky because we're in-house, so everybody coming to us lives at Trilogy. So it's a little bit different of an environment. But once we step from there, we're going to engage them and help them sign up for group fitness, small group, or personal training. And the question every day, I think Ellie and I were agreeing that the question every day is what's going on in your body right now? Not what happened 20 years ago or what do you think is going to happen, but what's going on in your body in this minute? And then back to Pat, what do you want to be able to do? And so when we have those conversations, that is the emotional part of the intake. And then moving on from there, we start the functional assessments and checking all the things that you would do in a typical assessment with an individual.
And Robert, how are you? I know you have creative ways of integrating clients in, and I love your assessment recommendations.
Yeah, it's kind of a hidden, and we disguise our assessment as our first workout because I don't. As soon as I tell you, I'm checking your posture, everybody straightens up and you pull your shoulders back. So I want you to come in and let's try to do some step ups. Can you do a step up? You're not comfortable trying? Okay, let me try the height. Let me give you a band to hang on to. We do a step up. Can you do a sit to stand? Can you get up and down off the floor? Let's pull on these bands. Let's push on these bands. Okay, let's go through it again. As we're doing that whole thing, what are you writing down? Oh, nothing. I'm just taking some notes. And we get done and I go, hey, here's what I'm seeing. You compensate with your right leg. You've got some arthritis in this hand. So we go through the whole chart after and they go, well, why didn't you tell me we were assessing? As soon as I tell you I'm assessing, you start to do what you think I want to see. And I've seen it many times. I use my wife as an example. We went to go buy her new marathon shoes. And the guy goes, let me see you run. And then I'll tell you what $200 shoes you need to wear. And so she starts running and all of a sudden she looks like Michael Johnson. I mean, she's just this perfect. I'm like, I've never seen you run like that a day in your life. And she goes, well, he said he was watching me. So that's where it comes out. As soon as we're getting assessed, everything changes. I want to see what you naturally do, what you normally do. And I call them tells. I want to see your tells. You compensate, you shift. So once I get all that info, now I know what I need to work on, what we can improve, where we can progress. That along with their general intake of their history and their medications and their training purpose and schedule and all that, we create a pretty good program for them to pursue from there.
That's great. And Ellie, what type of assessments and intake processes do you like to use?
I was loving what Rosie said about first we go through the emotional intake, and while we wouldn't address it as that's every day. How did you sleep? Did you take your medications? How was your mood? Just how was dinner last night? Get through a few things, and then we can move on to what's ailing you, what's not ailing you. But the emotional side is a huge void that is not being filled. A traditional medical intake now, you get your 15 minutes if something's hurting. They're not getting any of those addressed in the 15 minutes. There's no time for a traditional doctor to do that. So unless they have something else, we're a big part of their well-being, which I love, which is fun to be that person, to be that coach from that standpoint. So from an assessment, start here and then the rest will fill itself as you work with them.
The rest will flow, yeah. How can I design a program that can easily be modified for all fitness abilities? And maybe this deals primarily, I'm going to start with you, Rosie. Maybe you look at that in a group setting or a small group setting. How do we deal with different fitness levels? You can have people that are the same age. And honestly, I was chatting with Ann Gilbert earlier today, and she said, she's having a great success with small group training, even more so, let's say, than personal training or large group, because these people are coming back in clumps. Like I walked with these ladies over the pandemic, or we would go to lunch and sit way apart with our masks on. And so they come in a clump to work out together, but oh my gosh, I'm going to take, I go to the grocery store and I look at what it's like to be 62 for me as other people, and it is night and day. So we get this variety of people. How do we design a program or and work with them in these groups?
I think that I found two different strategies. And the first strategy has to do with our toys. And one, you don't want to overwhelm, so we don't want to have too many toys, but the toys for me that work best for every level include a chair, a bender ball, bands, and a set of weights. And that is consistent with no matter who I am training. I come in to class with a plan. I think it's really important to come in with a plan and not just wing it. And I come in with 3 or 4 options, whether they be regressions or progressions, modifications. I want to make sure that I can say, all right, we can start here. Or if you're comfortable with that, you want a little bump it up, we can start here. Or if that's a piece of cake to you and you want more, try this. And I think that everyone's so concerned with themselves and their little spot, especially on the floor now that we're still on the dot on the floor in our group fitness and small group environment, that they're just focused on them, just worried about themselves, and they are trying one of my 3 options. And then I give them time to try another option. And I think that's really my strategy, is the toys and the coming in prepared with multiple options depending on who's in the class at that moment.
Yes, and that makes perfect sense, because you're right, they get very obsessed and focused on what they're doing. And I like that, sometimes in a traditional group class, we start in the middle and then we show them regressions and we show them progressions. But if we start here, it's less, I don't want people injuring themselves.
Right, less threatening. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No,
less threatening.
Ellie, please go ahead.
What Rosie said was preparation is key. There's no shortcut in that. It's preparation and practice and practice and preparation. And it's doing it like Pat for decades, literally decades, doing it over and over, and you know where to start. I mean, with the older adults, you can always start with who's got forward head. Oh, we all do. Okay, let's start there. We can all start there and we can move from there. Oh, who's, needs a little ankle range of motion work. Oh, everybody. Excellent. We've got many options for that, but it's preparation, preparation, preparation. And do, as I'm sure Rose, we've all done, do the whole workout yourself. You have to do the whole workout if you're going to ask someone else to do it, up and down, progression and regression. But it's preparation. We're professionals. We better be prepared. That's our job.
And how do we do this? Are you guys doing hybrid workouts? I know I'm getting a little bit here, but I wonder about, I think Rosie, you're doing hybrid workouts. I believe they're filming as well at Trilogy. So you've got the filming going on. And so I think the preparation is probably necessary, because other people are also watching this you know, in their homes and
Right.
working out with it. Has that affected the way you've been training older adults?
It has, in the sense that I don't want to pull anything out of my hat that I think is dangerous. I don't want anything too dangerous, because fall prevention is huge. I want to train to avoid that. So I want to make sure that whatever they're doing in their environment is as safe as possible. And I can't check their environment. I can't watch their form. So some of you might be virtually training where you're looking directly at a client, but when I'm filming, I see my live class, and then I can see my live broadcast and just who is watching and comments. So I just want to make sure that what I am presenting to them is safe, it is possible, it gives them a feeling of success, and that I do it enough times where they can master it and feel really good at the end of the workout, like, yes, I did it. High five. No one's here to high five. All right, I'm gonna message and say, great class. That's what I want them to leave with.
And Robert, how are you designing your programs and also being able to integrate some of this hybrid training?
Yeah, not so much hybrid in terms of live and virtual, but we have different schedules from hour to hour. I'll have live clients in studio here with me. I'll have 3 or 4 at 6 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock I'm online for an hour, and I'll have 8 clients, and then back at 8 o'clock I'm back in here, and it just depends of the day. I'll stagger my schedules, but typically our clients will do Mondays, Fridays, or Tuesday, Thursdays. They have their schedule set, and then we have a membership site that they can come into on off days, Wednesdays and Saturdays, where there are challenge workouts that are listed for them. And we have it broken down into DLF, Daily Life Fitness, which is our kind of our entry level, our ADL pluses, and then our strength and conditioning groups. And those classes will progress in difficulty, and they're 20 to 30 minutes, so they can do at home with a basic fitness kit, things that I know they've mastered and they can do very well, and they don't need me, to be there necessarily to watch them do. We'll practice and implement those lifts for probably a month before they get assigned one of those workouts to do. So kind of do a combo of that, where I'm either seeing them live like we are now and I can coach and watch, or they're in here live and then we assign homework. So typical clients getting 2 to 4 workouts a week with me. All of them are designed for them specifically, but at least 2 in front of me every week.
And can you go through those abbreviations one more time?
Sure.
ADL, I know, activities, daily living,
Yep.
and then
So S&C, strength and conditioning, it's kind of our highest level, and the other one is DLF, daily life fitness. And basically,
daily life fitness.
just bands.
That's great. Those it's great. It's very self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's better than bronze, silver, gold. We've done that in the past, and you don't want to say beginner entry, because that can make people feel bummed out, or I'm in the beginners group. And when people say that, well, I'm with the old people, or I'm with the rookies, or whatever it is, I'm like, hey, that's my group. I do those workouts too, and I'm 40, so take it easy. Don't dig on me. Like we all have our different abilities and our different levels, and that's my job as the pro, to come in and see where you are and assess you without you knowing it, and then say, here's where we're at. Let me plug you in there. Let's see if we can't graduate you up one. And a lot of times too, they come in and they're like, during the assessment, our strategy session, while we're talking, I'll say, what athletic sports do you do? What do you like to do? They go, I used to golf, or I used to play tennis, or I used to go hiking. And why don't you do that anymore? Because of my back or my hip. So whatever their purpose, and they come in, I go, if we can get you back playing golf again, would you like? And you see them like, yeah, that'd be great. Like they thought that time was over with. And when you get, Rosie or yes moment of like, they got to go play 9 holes and came back, and they're just like, didn't hurt my back and my wrist feels good. And it's like, hell yeah, that's one of those moments. That's the high five moment,
Mm-hmm.
So we try to design those programs and select ones based on their goals they're pursuing like that. It's a great feeling when you help them achieve that.
And that fits in, Pat, with what you were saying about setting that goal, figuring out where they are and where you can take them. How do you take them? Okay, I just said, how do you modify for different fitness levels if you're teaching small group or a large group program? But how also do we progress them? How do you work with your clients?
my intake is let's go for coffee. Already got all your paperwork, already got it right here. We're walking, I'm watching the gait, watching the posture, chit-chatting away. You know, what do you like to do? What, if you're semi-retired, what do you, all that stuff. What do you love to do? What, you know, what did you used to do? Like Robert was saying, what would you like to do again? And the big question is, how do you want to live out the rest of your life? What do you want to do the rest of your life? And it can be, you know, grandkids, it can be trips, it can be habitat for, it's got to be something other than health. It's got to be living life to the fullest. So in that very informal coffee chit chat, walk to the shop and then walk back, I cover it all. I get to know them. I let them talk. And yes, I do go through the history, but all the medical crap, that's last. I get to know them. What makes you tick? Well, you know, Pat, I mentioned a wedding. I mentioned a reunion. I mentioned, you know what? I have always wanted to learn to downhill ski. I'm your instructor right here. I'll teach you. But we got to get you robust enough so you can get, if you go down, which you probably will, you got to get back up. So there's got to be something other than health does not resonate unless you got a massive heart attack and you got to clean it up. So I do this like, you know, like Robert was talking about his wife running like Michael Johnson. Yeah, when people think you're assessing, they put on perfect. And that's not, then we get back, then we'll walk back from the coffee shop and say, okay, let me just see a few things that you can do. Get up and down off the floor, blah, blah, blah. You know, a couple of basic things like that. And then we just go from there. But it's really keeping in sight those dreams and those buckets, those things you want to live your life out. And I was speaking to a group in Idaho about 3 months ago. And it was the members of this club, and they were all in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And I'll tell you what, I met a guy, he's 70s calf roping. He goes, why would I stop? I got to teach these boys how to calf rope. And then his wife barrel raced. I got to teach these girls how to barrel race. It's all about your purpose and your reason for getting up in the morning. And it's got to be bigger than you. This is the vehicle. So let's maintain it, fix it, repair it, restore it, so it runs and you can do what you want to do. That's what it is. You got to hook them on the big picture. Yeah, that's and I do that in a very informal way. It's the relationship and the trust and everything you guys are talking about, emotion. No, you got to give them the confidence and the competence to get out there and do it. And it's a mindset. It's a mindset.
And what you said, what I really like is you've got to kind of hook them. So this leads just perfectly. So our next question that we wanted to talk about is what marketing strategies are effective to reach and engage these active agers? Ellie, how do we reach them? How do we bring them in? You know,
they're a tough bunch. They're a tough bunch, and they don't like to spend their money. They want to keep it, and going back to what I just want to reiterate what Pat said a little bit. I love how you said the medicals last. They are so sick of their medical stuff. They go to so many appointments and go over and get poked and prodded. And that's not about living. That's about trying to stay where they are. And you're trying to take them to the next level. So I love that. So marketing to them, they are a tough bunch.
Oops, we lost her.
Ellie's a little frozen.
They're well read, the ones that with the information they want. But besides that, they're all not on Instagram. That's for sure. They're reading their art online, not online. They're reading their, the Wall Street Journal online, not online. So they're a hybrid bunch. I'm still trying to crack that code, because they're not the tip. We can kind of narrow the SEO, the search engines and things, how to reach people now through technology. And yes, they're there, but it's a real hybrid, to use that word again, compared to I would say the younger groups.
And so what's interesting is Rocky just mentioned in the chat is word of mouth.
Oh yeah,
it's just word of mouth. They love to talk to each other about what works and bring them in. And Robert, you're nodding. So what works for you to bring people in?
I partner with all the orthopedic surgeons around here, and they get 2-for-1 discounts on their hip replacements if they come with me. No, I'm kidding. Really,
I'm like,
it really is word of mouth. Like, we do zero external marketing as far as financial investment goes. We highlight our clients on social media. Their friends will see it and want to talk to them. And I go, hey, Ruth wasn't able to sit to stand to parallel. Now she can go 2 inches below parallel, holding an 18-pound kettlebell. And we'll post that on there, and 2 of Ruth's friends will end up calling me or sending me a message. I got a bad hip too. I saw my friend Ruth. And then they'll call Ruth, and Ruth's like, I've been working with Robert for 17 years, and she's my longest tenured client. And next thing I know, I've got 2 new clients. And that's truly how we've built our business. I've had 0 walk-ups or calls from my Google search, none of that. It's old school. I know it's an old school way of doing it. And I joke in saying that it's a crock pot approach. It's not a microwaved approach. It takes time, but these are individuals, these are clients who they don't want to dig around. They don't want to be someone's experiment. They want to work with someone who knows what they're doing. And the best way to say, is this the right person, is another person in their circle that they love, that they trust, is like, that guy's the shit. Like, that's the guy to go to. Yeah. And so now that we have that voucher, they're just like, I'm in. If Ruth says it's good, then you're the guy. And that's how our business has grown. So we have these relationships. I've got 14 clients that have been with me for 16 years or more. And basically the others are 10 years or more, and it's all their friends, like their extension. It's basically like, I got 60 clients and it's from about 30 families, and so it's like, that's my group. And I feel like that is a very good way to grow business that stays with you forever. Lifers, I don't want leads. I don't want lead generations. I want referral generations. I want referrals. I want relationships that are going to last a while.
I have to say that active agers, anyone over the age of 55, I'm not quite sure what it is. It's a sense of loyalty, a sense of commitment. If you look at IHRSA statistics, if you're going to spend a certain amount of money to gain a client via advertising, et cetera, you're going to retain that client so much longer. 55% of millennials that join a facility cancel within a year, leave within a year, okay, when the year is up. The retention is about 75 to 80% of active agers. And the reason that they might leave, if you're talking about a 55, 60-year-old market, is because of illness. That's the number one reason that they'll depart. There's a sense of loyalty or commitment. I'm not quite sure. Rosie, you're nodding here. What are you finding a trilogy with your programming?
I think that this population is the most appreciative population that you can work with. And I used to work in higher education, and my population was 18 to 22-year-olds. Not as much. So it is like a breath of fresh air when you work with the active agers, because everything that you do that is even just a little bit beyond, like a little bit more, like you did the extra and the extra love, they eat it up and they love it and they are so appreciative. So even Rocky said something about handwritten notes, little quotes I pass out to them at the end of class, checking on them if they, maybe if they had a headache when they left class, if I message them in Facebook just to check on them or ask how their grandkids are, that goes such a long way and they're so appreciative. I will say, from the cognitive standpoint, in terms of what's going on with their well-being in their head, we're talking about a population that is starting to forget things, is not as focused, things are not as clear to them. So when it comes to the marketing piece, make sure if they are an established group, not the group that Robert's talking about, the referrals and the new clients, but you have an established group that you're trying to recruit for maybe a new small group or a new webinar. You want photos in any of your marketing material of their friends and people their age. You want to be clear and concise about what it is, where it is, what time it starts, and how to pay, because If it's not there, you are going to blow up with all the confusion. And you want to make sure that you make it as easy as possible for them to become a part of this small group or whatever is you're planning, this event. And it's really, really important for them because they want to feel, oh, I saw it, I want to do it, and I signed up. Done. They do not want to have to ask 3 different people how to do something. By that point, you'll have lost them and lost their interest. So really important, photos, colorful, less words, get to the point.
Oh, I really like that. That's great advice. I love that we're talking about just word of mouth, bringing friends, bringing family members in, and making things simple and clear and concise, like you said. Pat, how are you getting your clients?
I remember I moved a lot over the years, like 34 times. So I've never had the luxury of being anywhere more than 3 years. But always word of mouth, always. And then if you're teaching Group X, you get personal training clients. If you're teaching Group X, you have a new small group of clients. And then the other thing is any kind of sport, i.e. golf. I mean, people move here so they can play hard till they die. And if they die on the mountain at 95, that's what they're hoping for. So the incentive to train so you can play, train so you can compete. But hey, Joe just dropped 5 in his handicap. He's been training, look what he does. His mobility is better, his power is better, all of that is better. So word of mouth, number 1, but then activities in common where you need to train so you can.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. What type of technology, this is another question, should I integrate into my active aging program? Now I'm wondering, I look at that and I think, am I going to use Zoom? Am I going to be doing FaceTime? How do I get them to be able to see what I'm doing? How do I see what they're doing? I always bring up Kelly Roberts. She's just my idol with dealing with some active agers. She sometimes actually has family members work with them to position their iPad correctly or their iPhone correctly, or even if they're lucky enough to have some type of camera, so you can actually see where they're moving and give them some positive feedback. But what are, Robert, you're nodding your head, what are some of the things you use?
Then, just like you said, during our initial strategy session, our interview, when we sit down, I will send them a Zoom link and we'll do our face-to-face. And at the end of that, I go, okay, let's see where your training space is. And I'll say, put me on the table. Or what about that bookshelf? Let's go on. And I'll just have them move me around, and they'll even put down like a piece of tape. Like he said, put the laptop here. And so that's my spot. So then they get that and they get pointed in, and I show them. And we have all this kind of troubleshot and video clips on the membership site too. Shows them how to rig up their bands and how to anchor it to the door, the right side to put it on, and how to carabiner the handles onto the bands. We give them all those tools so they can use that, but we'll go through it with them too. And so Zoom and that private session, at least one private session, if they need another one, we'll do it before I'll put them into a group of 2 or 3 people, or wherever we go. And then on top of that, another piece of our technology is our smartwatch or a Fitbit or a pedometer, something along those. We have a 5-week challenge we're doing right now, and it's step count based and sleep hours. So every day you're like, I'm committed to 7,500 steps and 7 hours of sleep every night. And so we're making sure they're getting their rest and getting their steps, and this is their guy that will help track it. And they get super into it, and they're all sending me their pictures and their write-ups, and they're sending me pictures of their watch with the step count on it. Like, it's super cool to see how they get into it. So those are 2 ways that we're utilizing quite a bit of the technology with our groups.
The technology really works. I can't believe it. I look at it, it's like 6:45. I'm freaking out. I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little bit over. Sorry, I know that Mike Lieber, who's fabulous and has been putting some things in the chat. Thank you, Mike. Wants to go to dinner, but he's got to wait at least 5 minutes. Ellie, I do have a question for you. I love those ArcaRays. You have to show it to people and talk a little bit about how you decided you were going to work with balance training and focus on it.
You are so kind. This is my creation, my invention. These are called ArcaRays. They snap off any resistance band. They just snap right back on like that, and they go up and down the band. So I was researching older adult falls, and 76% of all older adult falls are laterally, sideways, frontal plane. And I was thinking, okay, and I was going to people's home, and this was pre-COVID. I was like, okay, we got to work lateral work. What is there? There was very little. I was carrying BOSUs into people's homes. You get it into somebody's home, get it in the door, put it on the ground. They'd be like, I'm not getting on that dangerous thing or that big thing. And I was like, there's got to be something smaller than a foam. So I couldn't find it. So I literally I have a couple patents pending, 14 prototypes later. I designed this with these little side ledges to hold your foot in place to work laterally. It has this little 1/2 inch balance challenge, almost an upside down BOSU or wobble board, but it's only 1/2 inch off the ground. So you can put your toe heel on at any point. And it's fantastic. And it targets the glute medius like nothing else does. And my clients love it because they love bands. Everybody loves a band. They're non-threatening. You just pull on it and you're doing something. But now you put this on, it just transforms every band into a balance band. That's literally how I came up with it.
It gave, when I used it, which I love it, it gave me just that extra stability. But it also has the arch. So I felt like, oh, my foot felt great in it.
Oh,
but it had the lateral stability, and I could still move in it because it moved. Because when I first looked at it, I was like, what is this thing? But
I literally thought it had to exist. I'm like, this has to be here. And then I thought, oh, somebody else is going to create it first. No, it's really hard to get this far. This is like 3 years later. You would think it'd be so simple, but it's so effective. And you can use it with a TheraBand. You can use it with a loop band. It makes every band better. It just a 1/2 inch, and all of a sudden you've engaged your core, and you really aren't supposed to stand on these as they snap back. This prevents that.
Yeah.
So it keeps snap back from happening. But so thank you for letting me talk about
I'm sorry, I had to bring it up. I think
my friend,
Mike was kind enough. Yeah, he put a link into it, so you guys can take a look at it later. Yeah, but
thank you.
But it's these things are really, really cool.
But as as Rosie was talking about tools or toys, everybody likes this because it's so non-threatening. It's not like a big piece of something. It's not, it could be black, but it's not black. It doesn't sound like a piece of metal coming down, because as also Robert was pointing out, a lot of the older activators, only a handful that was Rosie, that were working out in the 60s. So there's very few that are really comfortable with the big meaty pieces, and they like the more forgiving kind of equipment. And so that's how this was supposed to be friendly like that.
Yeah, something portable. Like I just had it in my little bag, and I brought it to my physical therapist when I tore my MCL, and I had to get it repaired, and I've been using it, so really helps.
Good. Well, I'm glad, because it really does work.
And stability, which is very cool. All right, sorry guys. I've got to ask you. Okay, give me what you feel is the most important exercise that we can do with our activators. You only get one. You can't chatter away about it. Mike's got to have dinner. So Rosie, where would you start?
A deadlift.
A deadlift. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Linkle, where would you start?
Loaded carries. After I deadlifted it.
Okay.
You got two.
Exactly.
Sneaky. Pat, what would you do?
Get up. Get down, get up.
Sit down, get up?
Yep. And
okay.
Eventually the higher level of that.
Okay, cool.
The ability, then the exercise.
Nope, Pat, we're done. Ellie.
You know what I'm going to say, the glute medius, the lateral stepping, lateral work, anything lateral. We just don't go lateral enough.
Very cool, very cool. All right, I am going to share something with you guys real quickly. Here we go. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. We actually have 72 different sessions. It can be as low as $99, which is awesome. And if you do, I guess, $30 for 30 days, you get to watch all of these amazing sessions with these wonderful presenters you guys have here. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. Mike, Lieber, thank you for indulging me in an extra 5 minutes. Thank you guys. We'll see you
Thank you,
next
Sara.
Tuesday.
Thanks.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet you all.
Bye, guys.
Everyone.
Thank you so much.